1 2, a 1 2. So we've been getting a little bit of a little talk here about the volume being low. So let's see what happens. Let's see how that's working out. So what's the deal out there? We got Phil G, S Reeves, DeBar, Divine. Which Divine is this? Free Cipher. Divine is one of those names. If somebody say, look, it's Divine, which Divine? Is everyone there still? I hear a little echo now myself. Does anybody else hear echo? Hmm. Can't be over here. So can you still hear the echo now? How about? All right, I don't hear echo now. Right, all right. So yeah, we got look. We working over here, but I've decided, I've decided that I'm gonna get the new machine. I'm gonna get the new equipment because I just got a few different things that I'm doing where it's like, see, I end up over here with 10,000 wires. I can get the machine that does what I need it to do. I guess Divine bounced already. You can see that Divine, that could be Divine that's he's pretty much a like a time like a time and interdimensional traveler, and then you got other Divine from Minnesota. Just to tell you, you know, two extremes. That's two different extremes. You know, both named Divine. I guess we'll leave Divine alone. But what's the deal? What's going on? What's going on your end, Phil G? I think everybody gotta pull. You gotta pull your. You gotta pull your the little red line closer up so you can be present. Or you just leaving the job? You the hardest working man in your city. I'm fairly sure every time I've been on, you've been either headed to work, at work, or about to leave work. You said gotta hold the family up. Right now, just it's a difference between holding the family up and having rims. A lot of time, brothers like, yo, man, I'm just trying to feed my family. But they can't eat those pinky rings. You see, Phil G all pinky ringed up. So why you got kids to feed? Yeah, I guess maybe, man, because I came in a little bit late, but so I guess let's go ahead and get into the let's get into the get into right here, right? So at the present date of this writing, we got any people out there that care to add on, that care to add on. Anyone Bueller? At the present date of this writing, what's what's some of the lessons that we could draw up, right? What does that mean to everybody on here, right? At the present date of this writing. Don't everybody rush. Don't everybody rush to answer at the same time. At the present date of this writing. Oh, that's it. That's another. Did we go too far in the degrees? Where when I say at the present date of this writing, if you don't know that degree, then what I'm saying may seem to be just out of context. He said, this is what it is as of right now. Free sight for the love. Anyone else? So S. Reeves says, as it stands today, it provides the understanding that when you see this information in the future, the reference is from the time in which it was written. You know, this is all good. These is the, yeah, I can definitely see everything that y'all saying clearly. But uh, see, it's also connected to when it says Allah come in His own good time. See, it's about the science of how change occurs. So look, there's instances, right? But look, this is, let's cut to the chase, right? Some people might think this is just semantics, right? But we don't like the term used to. Right? And there's lots of things, right, where it's really not a used to thing. Right? It's an individual may plant a seed. In the individuals, that tree is still bearing fruit. So you can't say, they used to plant this tree. Right? You can't say that they used to plant this tree. They planted this tree. But at the present date of this writing, right, the person who comes and sees that with the naked eye, right, they see things, like y'all said, as it stands today, as of right now. But now here's the big question, right? Who controls then and now? Who's in control of then and now, of what is then and what is now? See, Divine, we're not answering none of your questions until you tell us which divine you are. You see how that works? Equality. Just equality. Oh, Encyclopedia Brown. God Amon. Welcome to the channel. All right, so yeah, this is it. Look, see, I needed to know that. Malik Allah, what's the signs? Yes, yeah, I needed to know which divine you are. Cause you know you often drive the car off the deep end. So you know we gotta watch it. But see, you one of them people, right? That look, this 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 title applies to you, right? At the present date of this writing. Because see, I see you sometimes and you one way, and then I see you other times you another way. You see, at the present date of this writing, there's a lot of things. Look, you can't look a person, right? When a person is the champ, right? They win the heavyweight bout. They always refer to as a champ. But at the present date of this writing, you don't have the belt. This is another individual with the belt. And see, this happens a lot of times, right? You know, I experience, you come in tune with a person, right? And, at whatever time in the past, right? At whatever time in the past, they was on point. But at the present date of this writing, see, the reason why all this is important, see, when I say who controls then and now, right, is because we got to continue daily. See, that's the science of renewing history, right? Because now, every day when you get up is the present date of this writing. Because, like I said, who's controlling then and now, right? Who's writing the history? If it's telling you about a present date, it's a part of the history. So who's writing the history? Who's bringing about the changes, right, that signify when it's then and when it's now? Don't assume that it's you, right, because I'm saying that. Don't assume that it's you, right? You gotta actually make it you. They see sometimes we could be so how would you say, we so descriptive, right? And so eloquent with speaking that we think we provided a solution. But really all you did was kind of detail the problem. The problem backwards and forwards, top to bottom, right? Front to back. But but you don't know the solution. See, even in terms of like when you're doing the knowledge, right? You know, I'm talking about in the sense that look, you know, there's in every individual situation, right? There's one amongst us who's the best knower, right? Whatever it is, right? We might uh, be making a certain dish, and there's a certain person, right, that they the best know of how to do that, right? We could be uh, playing ping pong, and there's a certain person who's the best knower. They the best foot forward for that game, right? Or we could be talking about 120 lessons. Now, when you coming in, right? You come into a cipher, right? And you determining like, okay, who's the best knower here, right? Who's the problem solver in this situation? Because see, a lot of times that's who you want to deal with. You don't want to deal with the underlings, the people that's just here following orders. They don't even know what the situation is. See, a person could be a part of a plan, but if they compartmentalize, you just know that you're taking this thing from here to there. You don't know where it came from or what's gonna happen once you get over there. But you come into a situation, right, where you trying to see, okay, who's the man with the plan here? Who's the problem solver here, right? Don't get caught up with the person who know all the problems. You ever have that happen where look, you get somewhere, right? If you got kids, this happened to you. I know it's happening, right? When you come home, right, and some of the kids is telling you about something that happened in the house, right, where one of the other kids did something. And as soon as you come in the door, they on you. They telling you, oh yeah, look at this happened, and he did this, and then that. But see, ain't nothing they saying gonna help the situation. They don't have one. And see, what I'm telling you is that person exists. That's one of the people. That's one of the people that's out there that trip you up. That person that come right and just keeps eloquently piling on the problems. Because see, you could lose focus. You could lose focus, right? On rather you trying to accomplish what you trying to accomplish more, or you spending more energy worrying about the problems. See, there's a fine line there, right? Between how you become the most high, right? See, you got these two things right here, right? Let's pretend that this is equal, right? Right? And one of these things want to be the most high. So I could work a little harder than you, right? I could study a little longer than you, right? Or I could try to pull you down. See how both result in you being the most high, but it's a difference. And see, the difference is in, see, second to second. Like it's years, months, and days, but those days is made of hours, minutes, and seconds. So at the present date of this writing, right? That's what I'm saying. Some of these things is look, it's questions to ask yourself. For you to ask yourself, not for you to get into other people, but see, you gotta ask yourself these questions, right? At the present date of this writing, if we know you got the knowledge, right, and you study the lessons, But at the present date of this writing, meaning every day, what you put in the activation, because you know, uh, because of the way it is in America, this is not something I'm saying is wrong at all, right? But because of the way things is in America, right? We we have a plan on what we're gonna do with the colored man. Like you know which days you gotta be at work, what time you gotta be there, when you can take a break, and when you get off. See, the same way you could answer those questions, right? If the boss said, well, look, you got to show and prove, show and prove, show and prove that you gonna go get your time card. You're gonna go to the people who seen you putting things in activation. You say, remember we was working on that thing on Tuesday? Took us all day. Yeah, he said I didn't come to work this week. So it's just one of the things to be aware of. Like I said, it's not the wrong thing. But when you can answer more questions, right? When you can answer in more detail about what you're doing for them than what you're doing for yourself, then you know where you at. You know where you at in your mind. Alfonso Pender. Alfonso came in. I don't know if y'all checked the last live. Alfonso showed us a little known. What would you call that, Alfonso Pender? It's a little known trivia. Alfonso Pender almost started some real conspiracy theory controversy on here. The last live stream. Darkim. What's your righteous name, Alfonso Pender? Divine understanding. Alfonso Pender. Alfonso, that's Fard's father's name, Alfonso. got some lag time here. I guess this since what's the interaction is not the same. After this last break, I don't know if something's going on. I don't know if something's going on with the way this is like if there's just a lot of lag time here, but whoa. Alfonso. See, for the people that, I get stuck on stuff like this, because see, I like to know who everybody is. Even though this is just the internet, right? Well, I wouldn't even say just the internet. I wouldn't even say even though, probably more so. Let's not just say even though this is just the internet. Let's say because this is the internet, I like to at least have some kind of idea of who people are. See, I told y'all, look, that right there, if you want to invent something, where you will definitely have a customer for life, right? Invent a machine, right? Like a device, right? Invent a device or an app, just an app on my phone, right? Where when I pass somebody, if somebody's in my vicinity, I can look on the app and see what that person's about. I just look at the app. You full of shit. You a liar, snake. True and living. You're righteous, honest, sincere, whatever it is. Right? You don't necessarily got to be negative, but yeah, I would be on that app all day. I guess Alfonso Pending. He moved on. But I mean, look. That's a part. That's a part of being a whole. It's a part of being a unit. Where every link in the chain, we gotta know the other links. Like it's some things where it's like, yeah, you could stay over there, right, and play your role. But there's some things where now you gotta come out and participate. somewhere down the line, right, it's going to be the present day when it's going to be your turn. Whether that comes up, something in the greater society, whether that comes up with your family, whether it comes up in the nation, right? Sooner or later, it's going to be your turn. I mean, unless you just decide to flake out on life somehow. See, there's some things that you know. Uh, if you're not participating, right, then how many steps away are you from religion? You said, can one participate without being emotionally involved? Uh, there's a fine line, right? But because we not talking about people being caught up. You know, when you say love, there's different levels. We're not talking about the infatuation with a thing or idea or whatever or a person, right? You know, but if a person don't love this, right? That's always been kind of an idea of mine, right? That a person, for a person to go through all of this, right? They gotta have a reason. You either love this or you here to do some devilish. You know what I'm saying? When you really talk about, like I said, not being caught up, or just the infatuation of something, right? When you're talking about, all right, uh, like a while ago, right? You was like, yeah, you gotta work hard because you gotta hold the family up, right? You know, you got these concepts, the idea of love, the idea of being honest or whatever, you know what I mean? And then you got the act of those things, the acts, ACTS of those things. Where a person could, tell you that, uh, they love you, but if everything that they doing, right, is never bringing about the best part, between y'all or for you as an individual, right, then yeah, maybe they do, inside whatever that set of hormones or whatever it is that's produced, they probably may do feel it. But for you to deal with, the acts of it, you know what I'm saying? Like being a father, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the easy part is becoming a father. You know what I mean? But going through the acts, you know what I'm saying? The things that, you know, right now you gotta sacrifice some of your time, right? So that you gotta sacrifice some of your present so they can have a certain kind of future. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, I guess that same thing applies with, yeah, it might be easy to get involved with just about anything. But when you get to the grind of whatever that is, you know what I'm saying? When you have to go through the 21 ciphers, See, it's time you could be in a world, right, where you ain't got to deal with none of the 21 ciphers. It could be whatever. I ain't got to deal with the 21 ciphers. You know, sometimes you could go around the 21 ciphers, so it's not that big of a deal. Sometimes you can flow right over the 21 ciphers, floating on it, magic cup. 21 ciphers can't touch you. You see, when it comes to those times, you got to go through the 21 ciphers, G. You know, love hella right. It's interestingly enough, I'm a part of putting together the third year of our family reunion. After understanding God years, we are adding other family members at this time. To your point, it's my time. You see what I'm saying? So with those who don't participate be akin to the fine mist? Uh, some of them, some of them is, you know, they got a certain thing they got to do, right? So look, they in the midst, and if it, if something big enough, if it was urgent matters, yeah, those brothers is the fine mist that the naked eye could hardly detect. That you don't know, you just see these brothers right here. But most of those that don't participate, they just not this. They just not of the mindset, right? They still got the religious mindset. Like, you got the knowledge and then that's it. And then for some people that's what it is. Like they got the knowledge and then they're gonna go their way and accomplish whatever it is that they accomplish in life, whatever they got, you know what I'm saying? And this knowledge is gonna be a part of, how they navigate their path and all of that. Right? The knowledge is gonna show them certain ways how to approach, certain, but they not this like that. You know what I'm saying? Some of them is people like that who, they got our knowledge, but they never really absorbed the culture. You know what I'm saying? But most of those that don't participate, I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to one of these things like this. Especially when like I said, you're talking about every level. You know what I'm saying? Meaning, are you participating in, even teaching your own kids the knowledge, or teaching in your community or doing anything? Just not, following jackasses. You know what I'm saying? Like, people that's 5%, you had this experience where just the way you move, right? Just certain things, right? If people be like, yo, let's do this, you be like, nah, let's don't do that because this. And so people begin to respect how you do things and how you approach situations. Are you participating, even at that level? Because if you're not, I don't see how you're gonna stay this. Like those are the people that walk up to you saying that they used to be God. Because they just started participating in other things, whatever it is. It don't necessarily gotta be, negative off the bat. Maybe, look, a brother said, he had the knowledge, They was going to the state office building across the street, right? And they was protesting whatever issues at the present date of that writing, right? They was protesting whatever issue. Then you know how it is. They've been the same issues since we've been here. So that's a. I'm sure we're familiar with the issues, but at any rate, they was over there protesting the issues, and somebody came out and they was like, "Yo, we got jobs. We giving out jobs. Yo, show up over here. Yo, you get a job or whatever." So you know, he took the application or whatever. He went and applied for the job, and he got the job. So now he started drifting away because he was like, look, I never, it wasn't like I ever made a decision like, yo, you know, I don't want to deal with that no more. I don't want to do this no more, that no more. But he was like, you know, I couldn't be at the protest because I had to be at work and shit. You know what I'm saying? You know, when I got off work, the protest is over. I'm tired. I got to go to work tomorrow. And like I said, it's nothing wrong with him doing that, right? But what he did is he stopped participating on every level. You stop, you stop even, you know, look, when you in the car driving to work, you stop going through your lessons, man. Like you used to when you was coming to the place where you knew the five was gonna be, right? Because you knew you was gonna be asked. So now you had the knowledge for everybody else. You didn't have it for yourself. You wasn't participating, you was just being down. And so for those people, right, at the present date of this writing, it's all different shit. You know, we're not talking about different things in the form of growth and development. Just Heat, welcome to the channel. Like you know, look, you know what you was teaching when you had the knowledge for 1 month, right? You know, by the time you had the knowledge for a year, yeah, you should be able to see some change through the growth and development that you've achieved since that time, right? That's different than, yo, you know, last time I saw you, right, you was vegan. You was saying peace, man, and look, you know, oh, chicken was poison animal. Right? That was before, but now at the present date of this writing, I see you like, yeah, what up, B? And you eating a ham and cheese sandwich. See, it's easy to see that that person, yeah, the whole time, you know, whatever you was doing, the perpetrating you was doing, right? That you was 5%. It wasn't you wasn't truly participating. See, freedom means free. It doesn't mean that you studied your lessons, right? And you stopped buying, you know, pork rinds at the corner store because the guys made you. Freedom means free. right? It means we chose this. You see, those are all the things that it say. That, look, at the present date of this writing, right? That's what I'm saying. Just use that phrase and ask yourself some questions. You see, that's a part of knowledge of self too. You know, yeah, we get knowledge of self that, somebody, you get the lessons, you go and you hear. But see, knowledge of self gotta come from in here too. It's about knowing how you as an individual gotta approach each one of them principles. Shalom was the science. See, like, you know, you got various people, right? A couple different people. They'll give me the reason why they don't know their lessons. Right? Like the person won't know their lessons. And they'll say, yeah, well, you gotta understand that I'm this way. Yeah, but if you know that, then why don't you activate in a way if you know that, so what are we doing? What are we doing? What is knowledge of self about then? It's just about the stuff that you got on the paper, because see, yeah, that can spark certain things. The stuff that you just see on the paper, it can spark certain things. You see, it's just like when I say, man, when they say who is the original man, right? And then it gives you the answer. How you know they talking about you? Does any of this stuff describe you or any of the things that you've done or do or plan to do? See, like I said before, right? We say we give people the knowledge, but really we bring it out of them. We give them the tools, right, where they can manifest that out of themselves. And see, that's why the knowledge is not good for certain people, because that's what I'm saying. See, it's not like, a person can say, well, look, I was baptized on this day right here. I was saved by the Lord on this day right here. And then now everything is supposed to be handled. You step through the pearly gates, everything that happens, you've already punched your ticket, right? When the rapture comes, when Jesus comes back, when the mothership lands, or you straight. FDJ Beats, Luke Cage, 793rd. But see, with this, you're gonna have to continue daily. And as you continue in daily, look, it was his brother, I haven't seen him in a minute. King Me, positive influence. This is before the internet. Well, not before the internet, but before it was, a consumer product, right? We took them out the 80s, right? And positive influence. And look, this is before, and he used to always say, look, everything that we say and do is being recorded on audio and videotape. This is before it was cameras in every store, cameras, ring cameras on people's doors, ring alarm, all that, Amazon. Before all of that, he used to always say that look, everything that we do and say is being recorded on audio and videotape. But one time, my physical, he said, listen, man, because I remember I told him, I was like, yeah, nah, I did something, and nobody saw me. And he just looked at me and said, listen, no matter what time of day and night it is, whatever is the weather, the month, the year, somebody's looking out the window. So I'm saying that to say that, look, the history is being recorded. See, whatever you're doing, even if you think you're doing it in secret, the history is still being recorded. You said the air of dissatisfaction is a fine mist. I mean, yeah, I can see what you're saying with that. But see, and here, and this is why it is. See, when you deal with the fine mist, because remember, when the water gets drawn up, it's water being drawn up. See, depending on how heavy the mist was and the current of air she was in, right, is what might bring you to a light, fluffy form, right, or to sleep in hell. A light, fluffy form or solid ice. Yeah, whatever you do, somebody see it. And see, we know the science of time, right? Time is one of the great revealers. Like it's certain thing, right? That FDJ beats. Say put that in there again. More importantly, right? Whatever you do, whoever's seen it, you seen it. Put that in there again. Don't act like the truth. Don't act like the truth is unknown. You know what you know what you did. that's that's one of them lines right there, right? You know what you did. But look, time is one of the great revealers. Like there's certain things that bring the truth out. You know, and we ain't just talking about, person getting high. I'm talking about things that happen where it's like, yeah, see, this reveal who's who now. There's some things that look, parts of culture where it's like, okay, now it's time to live certain things out. Like how they say, look, separate the men from the boys. Time is one of the great revealers, man. There's some stuff people can kind of hide behind. You can hide behind some things, and some things, truth get revealed like that. See, like, look, back in the days, the ciphers that was one of the great revealers. Like if you just walking through the hallways at school, right? Everybody saying peace God. Yeah, peace God. Yeah, peace. Yeah, yeah, what was the slang? Knowledge. Mercury, God. Mercury, Almighty. Everybody. You see, at the school we're gonna have another cipher. And see, when that happens, because of the way that happened, because of the way the ciphers was, right? The whole world see. And like I said, it's not just negative, it's positive too. Right? That, you be in the cipher, right? And look, it's a kid that's in your math class. And he's in your third period math class. Y'all kick it or whatever. He's not your particular man like that, but he's in your class in third period. Right? So, at the school, he see you in the ciphers, he see you building, he see that, you know what you're talking about. Right? Now the kid that's in your math class, he's been interested in getting the knowledge for a long time, but he didn't know nobody, particular that could introduce him to it. But see, the cipher revealed that, oh shit, I do know that kid, man. He's from my math class. Yo, God, that's how people was getting knowledge. It was people like I said, I knew them already. But they was like, yeah, man, I seen that, you seem like you into that, man. I always wanted to deal with that, but I ain't know how. Even for your own self, right? You know what I'm saying? You come to the cipher, right? And you building every day, and then one day right? One day you just go off. I mean, you building, you got everybody mesmerized for like an hour, and you didn't even know you had that power. Should I said there are many different types of clouds. Listen, you know, and by that, I understand what you mean. You know, uh, all the various things that might distill from those myths. These is the things that you gotta be on point about, man. And like I said, that's just we speaking. Mostly we talking from a standpoint of the lessons, but when you get out there in the world, you know, every cipher that you go into, right, it's got fine myths. It got things that's a part of this cipher that you don't see with the naked eye. Things that's a part of this cipher that's, it's unsaid. Some things is spoken. You know how you go in some places, right? And it's just mad quiet. Everybody's being quiet. Now, if you could read Define Myths, right? That's one that's fairly easy to read, right? You see, everything is calm, right? So, when you ask a person like, "Pardon me, can I get instructions to this thing or that thing?" You don't come in and start. If you could see Define Myths, right? Then nobody gotta tell you that. But see, I might come in the midst, right? Shit, all right. See these people right here? I can tell they about to commit some type of crime. Let me go over here. Because of the various things that might distill from that mist. Right? And I don't want it to rain on me, so what I do? I keep my head above water. Right? Because I draw the mist up. I don't get drawn up with the mist. I'm not I'm not out here dangling in the currents to be getting frozen like solid ice. See, that's the thing. For the newer people that might be coming onto the channel, is these is the ways you got to draw those lessons up so that they mean something to you now. When I'm building on it, something like this, right? This is not the meaning. It's what I've drawn up, right? Through the research and the experience. But now you got to draw it up because your research and experience cannot possibly be the same as mine. You don't know the people I know. And it doesn't mean that it's better or worse. It just means that it's not the same thing. So you can't repeat what I say. You got to renew it. But you cannot possibly, right, have done the same research that I did because you wasn't around the same people I was around. You know, it's possible we could have read the same books. But that's not all the research that I did. You know, you haven't been to all the places that I've been, because research is not just in books. If we talking about the pyramid and you tell me, look, I read 10 books on the pyramid. I'm like, yeah, I went to the pyramid 10 times. Is going to the pyramids 10 times not also research? So you didn't do the research I did, right? You haven't had the experiences that I had. So you could only try to copy me, which is impossible. You have to renew the history. So that's why I said, look, when you say something, don't say I said it. Look, even if you say I said it, right? Say what you drew up from it. At least that. Why you said it? Okay, I said it, but why you said it? If you just said it because I said it, right? Then the Cash App is right there at the top, is pinned to the top of the screen. Me and Reverend Knight appreciate your donations. That's why you have to make some kind of sense of these lessons, right? You know, you gotta see, because you know when you read that stuff, right? I mean, we going. There's some new people here, right? See, when you read those lessons, or even when you see this screen right here, right? That's 2 dimensions. The words on the paper, that's just 2 dimensions. But our life is in 3 dimensions. So you can see the length and the width, right? You see the length and the width of the paper. But you got to draw it up to give it depth and meaning. Otherwise, it's just a collection of stories about people hundreds of years ago and thousands of years ago that we could just try to copy them, right? And replicate their life from, you know, 2000 BC, right? We could try to keep the world in that state right now. Like, if this is the clothes that they wore, this is how we supposed to dress. If this is the, you know, if they didn't have a washing machine, right? When at the present date of that writing, if they didn't have washing machines, then we can't have washing machines now. See, that's the only thing that's going to happen, right? That's what religious people do. What else is going to happen right? If you can't draw nothing out of them lessons for what it mean right now, right? And understand that, okay, yeah, y'all didn't have washing machines because y'all was applying the knowledge and wisdom at the present date of that writing. And now, right, because y'all applied that, and because we, continue to add on, we got washing machines now. So you have to see your reality in the lessons. Look, and I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just adding on. I'm adding on, right? You also got to see yourself. See, because that's what happens. See, if you don't see yourself, then see, especially if you're dealing with something where somebody else is doing the interpreting. Because now they can interpret you into whatever role, right? See, when you see the Bible, right, we was interpreted in as the slaves who's lost from home, right, for 400 years, and is just supposed to be obeyed. And so, for centuries, you have black people living their life like that. Thinking that, obeying this oppression is the only way for them to get to heaven. So let me ask you a question, Jesse. Now, I'm fairly sure, right, Jesse, just going by your name, right, that when you see the lessons, right, you see yourself in the knowledge degree in the 1 to 10. Is that correct? Facts. Okay. So when you read the Bible, right? And I'm not saying you believe in the Bible, I don't know how, but there's truth, there's truisms in there too, right? When you read the Bible, who are you? Seeing truth. The original man. Okay. Do because the Bible got some names in it, right? Who's who's the original? Which? Because I don't know if there's a particular character in there in the Bible called the original man. So do you, any more? Can you be any more specific? So FDJB says, Son of Man is the Bible. Just he said, Jesus, who was the righteous brother teaching freedom, justice, and equality. Okay. I'm God. When I read the Bible, look, it could be my own complex here. But when I read the Bible, I'm God. I don't get. I'm not the smitey. I'm not. I'm not the smitey. I'm the smiter in chief. Oh, what's the deal? Y'all worked on that jump off, or what happened? See, that's why I gotta get the machine. What I'm talking about. See, I got 1,000 wires over here, 1,000 wires over here, and kick the plug out. But yeah. Oh, y'all end up working on that joint. I was, I've been in the midst of some other action over here. But yeah, see, when I read the Bible, I'm God. Like that's what it says right there. Like, see, these people, they going through various trials and tribulations because they won't do the right thing. And these is the various stories, right, of, in the Bible, right, of righteous people and unrighteous people, right, and how they handle situations, right, and then how they came out. See, people who lived out their determined idea, right, like who was it, Lot, that he was the only righteous man in the town, and people who you couldn't stand on the square, like Adam, who got kicked off the strip. Drag racing again tonight. I see they drag racing again tonight. He said Jesus got crucified for standing on his square. There's some what's the name in there with the Jesus crucifixion. You just not even talking about what you're talking about, but it made me think of something that I learned recently. Like it's been some years, but I haven't really had the time to draw it up, right? But when Jesus is in jail with the two other cats, right? One of the dudes' name is Barabbas, right? Bar Abba means son of the father. And the other guy, I can't remember his name, but it's all three people there So that's I gotta figure that one out. I haven't really. I gotta really get into that. I haven't drawn up with that what that's about yet. Where's Don Bishop? If Don Bishop was in here, he would know what the other guy's name is. Somebody get Don Bishop. Somebody get Don Bishop on the live stream. Don Bishop is Phil G. Don Bishop is your counterpart in Jamaica, Queens. I don't know where you from, but nobody can take out Don Bishop in Jamaica, Queens. Hardest working man in Jamaica, Queens. Oh yeah, that's right. We got you from Chicago. See, you got somebody ever tell you something, and you like, yeah, figures. Not surprising. Google only say Barabbas. Yeah, now it was another guy there. Yeah, who was the two? Who was the two other? Barabbas was one of the people on the cross too, right? Where's Don Bishop when you need him? What's going on? Phil G was the other two names. must be some Greek shit. That ain't the names. Yeah, I said, listen, FDJP, that's what I said. Look, that must be some translation shit, because I ain't never heard those. Yeah, that don't even sound right. But you know, look, there's things in those books to be drawn up too. You know what I'm saying? It's just, look, here's my thing, right, with the Bible, right? You know, is that, first of all, it's not written, you know, it's not written specifically for us, right? You know, a person comes with a book, you know, whether they got it physically or whether they got it mentally, right? A person comes with a book that they teaching from. You know what I'm saying? You know, and they go to a group of people that they teaching those lessons to. You know, these lessons apply to them. You know what I'm saying? Like when, you know, when we looking at the lessons, the 1 in 36, it applies to us. You know, the knowledge degree in the 1 in 40 is specifically about us. You know, the person who answered the questions is one of us. Like all of the stuff, the examples in the 1 in 36, we know what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, yo, you know, when you read the Bible and they tell you about this food that they was eating and nobody's eating that food in 1,500 years. Or they using language that no one's used in 3,000 years. So once it's using other language and all these other examples, right, it makes it a little bit harder to draw it up and to decipher all the codes that's in there. You see what I'm saying? Whereas, you know, 120 is 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 simplified down, right? Where you can put the whole thing on cap. And see, without the whole thing on cap, you can't draw it up properly. See, if you playing checkers, then you only got two pieces, one move, or one piece, two moves. Like there's no rook, no pawn, no queen, no king. There's no other things for you to learn. It's one piece, right? And you can go that way, or you can go that way. But life is never like that. It's a whole bunch of pieces on the board, a whole bunch of various people, and they move in all kinds of ways. And without mastering what each of them pieces is about, you're not going to be able to be successful in that game. You know what I'm saying? We can't, you know, we living in real time, right? You know what I mean? Everything is in real time, but I'm saying in terms of, see, I got the lessons on cap, right? So if something happens, I don't got to go in my book bag flip to the page, right, and read the scripture, and then interpret it as what it means. In I never really liked that term. I never liked that term, but at one time, just saying that it's got to come natural to you, right? People used to say it's second nature. I never liked that term. If you're doing it second, then it's not natural. But just meaning where you don't have to think about it. You don't have to think about it, right? It just activates, right? Because you've prepared it that way. So that's why, I'm keen on 120 lessons, to bring it back full circle. That's why I was saying is the difference between, the Bible and the Quran, right? Because that's what that's what 120 says, right? It says our history is recorded in the Bible or the Quran. It doesn't say it's recorded in 120 lessons. So I'm not, I could be putting ideas in everybody's head. I'm not saying that, I don't know if anybody was gonna feel the need to ask me that, right? But why I don't have the Bible and the Quran on cap like I have 120. And what the significance of it is, uh, in comparison to, other books of life. You know what I'm saying? See, like even when you deal with the symbolism, right? Snakes don't mean in the Egyptian world what they mean in the Judeo-Christian world. So you got various characters, right? That's in the Indian, pantheon of deities or whatever, right? That we can't really understand based upon the symbolism that you understand from being a part of the Judeo-Christian world. If that's your background. You know what I'm saying? Or, if you was to try to, understand certain, like for instance, right? Everybody deals with people that pass away a little bit differently. What is the meaning of that? What does that mean when the person pass away? What is the meaning of the various, rituals that you do surrounding that? Everybody doesn't understand what everybody else does. Like I had this joke book back in the days, right? It was a book of jokes. And one of the jokes was that I think it was the one person was Asian, right? I want to say that he was not Buddhist. I can't remember. At any rate, right? The American person and this Asian person is at the graveyard. So the American person is bringing the flowers to put on the grave, right? And the Asian person brings a plate of food, right? So the American person starts laughing It said, what you bring the food for? When you expect for this person to get up and eat the food? And he said, right after your person gets up and smells those flowers. So saying all that to say that, even though I was a little kid, what I drew up from that, right, is that, yeah, you come from different knowledge and wisdom, then we not going to have the same understanding. You're not going to be able to see what I see. I'm not going to be able to see what you see. And you got to be aware of that when you're dealing with people, even people that say they this. Is that sometimes the reason why you can't come to an understanding with a person is because y'all got different knowledge and wisdom. Because we don't even have the same set of facts. So how we gonna come to a common understanding? Self-realization's been a minute. But we on here, yeah, I came in late, but look, it's good news though. Have y'all noticed that I haven't been twisting, little taste, but I haven't been twisting? Listen, I've made tremendous progress, man. Where right now, I'm like, I'm like 95%. See, right now, the last step that I gotta do, the last step that I gotta do to heal it, I don't even want to tell y'all, cause y'all ain't gonna believe me. Y'all gonna think I'm making that up, but it's serious. But at any rate, you know what I'm saying. We got we can go ahead, especially because I know you people. Wait, what just happened? Um, yeah, because I know you people. So, uh, we got any? We got we got any last questions? Jesse, I got hit by a car. I'm recovering from getting hit by a car. Last, I got hit July 9th. I want to say it was either July 7th or July 9th. Speaking of July, oh yeah, I'm supposed to go somewhere on the 21st. But yeah, this July, my daughter turns knowledge bill. I don't know if she, when people get that age, a lot of times they don't want to. they don't want to. They don't want to. They don't want to maintain with their parents no more. They got other plans. Yeah, I'm glad I made it through too, man. I'm telling you that was one of the things. At least for me, that's how I take it. That's how I take things, right? Uh, when things happen to me, right? That Like they could have been much worse. You know what I'm saying? Especially, when it could have been much worse because of things that was out of my control, right? I look at that and wonder, what's the lesson that I was supposed to learn from that? You know what I'm saying? If not from that individually, right? What's going on right now around me that I'm supposed to be taking a minute, right? Something I'm supposed to step back right now and do the knowledge, right? Because that could have went a whole other way, right? And when it's positive too, right? Like, look, sometimes the other day, she had, cat come through, like, yo, you dog can be alive. Yeah, no doubt. She said, yo, man, look, I got all this stuff for you. Right? She got all the stuff. Like, I wasn't even in here, man, take all this stuff, man. This is your stuff. You know, I look at that. Like, okay, whatever's this stuff what he gave me, right? It's something I'm supposed to do with this. I'm not supposed to fumble this right here. So, yeah, that was definitely, uh, you know, quite a signal right there. If to take a step back. But oh yeah, do we have any last questions though before we wind this one down? Before we go ahead, I mean we're gonna try to get back on this week. We'll see what happens. But everybody knows this is the season right here where I got a lot on my plate. We gotta get everything popping for the show and proof. We got a lot of other big plans this year. We plan on doing some trips with the kids. You know what I'm saying? We got to get the garden popping. We got to get the pond popping. You know. So sometimes it's not time for talking. So I guess that's it. Uh, just he. You know, I don't. Sometimes people get a new handle, but I like to say, I don't know if he was on here before, but I like to say that when I when I build, right, there's such clarity, right, in the understanding that's manifested from my knowledge and wisdom that there's never any questions. that's how I like to look at it. You know what I'm saying? But at any rate, since we don't have no more questions here, right? Seems like we had a couple new people on the channel. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe, hit the notification button so you can know when we come on. Everybody else that made it this far, do the each one teach one, hit the like button. We're gonna sign off and say peace right now. Like I said, hopefully we get a chance to make it back on here during the week. Hold on, let me see if I pull it. We get a chance to make it back on here during the week. But if not, rest assured that I'm handling the family business. Here we go out with some sounds. Go out with some sounds. So, like I said, I'm gonna sign off and say peace. And tomorrow we know it's soon yet, so maybe Friday we get into some action. But peace. And brothers is telling him, yo, listen, this is not right or die. And so things proceed. So when he comes here, it's kind of like, yo, look, God's already told you what it is. What you came here for. I'm not going to tell you nothing, right? I'm not going to tell you. What you expect me to tell you? Oh, yeah, nah, they not right here. Shit, yeah, you tell me. What do you expect me to tell you? The topic is people keeping pet snakes. Where, see, like Supreme Man said, right? You got your sword out. You got your sword out, right? For the righteous. You got your sword out. The revolution is eating his baby, but see, you got pet snakes. You got snakes that you like. And you go above and beyond letting them live, you keep them alive. You see? And what they do, sting again and again and again and again and again. There's a difference between disagreeing and what you speaking is not Allah's teaching. You know what I'm saying? And see, Supreme, I'm gonna tell you what's disappointing, right? Is to know. And brothers is telling him, yo, listen, this is not right or die. And so things proceed. So when he comes here, it's kind of like, yo, look, God's already told you what it is. What you came here for. I'm not going to tell you nothing, right? I'm not going to tell you. What you expect me to tell you? Oh, yeah, nah, they not right here. Shit, yeah, you tell me. What do you expect me to tell you?